What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony Easy and Casey, possibly Suni, jumping on. We are talking Olympics in this episode. So if you guys want to join in, we're talking the Chinese Communist Party Olympics. The weirdest decision the IOC can come up with besides Russia, which they also make that weird decision as well. So we're going to talk for about 20-30 minutes on whether or not we would actually be if we should be competing, if we shouldn't be competing. We're going to talk about the people that have left the United States just to compete for China, which I think is super weird. And then the way the media is covering China, almost like they're deathly afraid to piss off a country that we should have the superiority over. Anyways, we're about to get started. So guys, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button, put some comments. Let's start. Let's do hashtag Team USA. That's going to be the comments in the comment box right now. So do hashtag Team USA. Hashtag Team USA. And again, if you'd ever like to support what we've got going on, I know Casey talked a little bit earlier about the truckers convoy and the fact that the Give Send Go has been frozen, not seized. I said the wrong word earlier. Frozen, not seized. But we talked a little bit about that. In Canada, $8 million has been held, and there's no way for them to technically get it out. It's not taken away, but there's no way for it to go through the banks, which is interesting. Which sounds very Chinese. Which brings us to our topic of, that's right, China. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's start out first before we get into kind of all the politics behind it, the media and all that stuff. Do you believe as though with the atrocities to humankind going on in China, to humanity, crimes against humanity, do you think we should be competing in the games?
I'll jump in first. Absolutely not. I think we should have boycotted the whole thing in the first place. I find it very suspicious that Beijing is the first place to host both a Summer Olympics and a Winter Olympics. When you see the pictures and some of the stuff that is going on, we did not send any of our leaders to the Olympics. We said we would boycott that from a leadership perspective of our country.
Governmental.
Yeah, governmental. Thank you.
So we'll just send our pauper athletes out there to deal with it without having any representation when they're in rooms being pulled out to be tested, last second for the vid. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And as soon as we do that, why are we sending our athletes to? No, we shouldn't be. We should have just said, peace, we're not going. We won't be there. And we shouldn't be there. If we're talking about China, where a very deadly virus came from, and they don't want to admit that it actually came from their country, and then we're going to send our top athletes there? No, I think we should have backed out and said, no, thank you. We'll see you in a couple years in another country.
All right, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just pulled up an article here off of Yahoo Money, and I'll share this real quick. And this basically kind of the headline here is your turn: why the world should boycott the 22 Beijing Olympics, right? And one of the very starting paragraph here I think is interesting. Says, watching the upcoming Olympics in China will show the support for the Chinese Communist Party, which I think is the point. They've had, to Casey's point, two Olympics. And this is the part that is interesting to me is it's, they really are pushing hard on the party, the single party system in communist China. And Yahoo is not a place that typically is critical of China, at least in my perspective. And they're using the words made in China directly. And so everything you're seeing, this kind of harkens back to some of the stuff we touched about the other night, where we pulled up pictures of cooling stacks behind, the ski jumps and stuff like that. This is them trying to cover up something that's even more interesting to me, which is can they sport wash their genocide against the Uyghurs? And this is something that the world needs to be aware of. And in this article, it kind of speaks specifically of the
Atrocities going
attempt,
on since
the
2016.
attempt for them
Oh,
to
that too.
completely cover up what's really going on inside the country right now, as far as human rights abuses. And it's my opinion that the CCP just kind of has bought the Olympic Committee at this point. So
It's weird to me that I mean, like, what Olympics? It was recent that China had the Summer Games as well. Was it Beijing? Is it the same place?
Yeah,
Yeah,
same place.
it's
it's
the first.
impressive what they do to manipulate the world into thinking that they are this great country. So, as you know, there is more smog in Beijing than anywhere in the world, and they managed to clear out this smog cloud for the Olympic Games by essentially restricting industry in that area for like 6 months or 4 months, I think, leading up to the games, and it worked. It got rid of all of their smog, and then they, of course, went right back to it. They have, because of how much the media across the world protects China. Which no better way to prove that than what's gone on with COVID. Like, this is, no matter what conspiracy you want to think of, whether it's a bat, whether it's uh, uh, in the lab or whatever it is, the virus came from them, came from this country. Partially, again, I think the United States has a little bit with the way that they shifted our funding from the NIH, and with what happened in the North Carolina lab and pushing that to China. In the end of the day, this gain of function research was done in a Wuhan lab in China, and it has caused mass chaos across the world, including the athletes going on right now. And though, why is Taiwan competing in the Olympics under Chinese Taipei? Oh, I didn't even know that part.
Yeah.
That's a whole new fun. Go
I
for it.
I wanted to just enter this in as evidence here of this washing, right? So Taiwan is still a sovereign nation right now. They have not officially been taken over by China, although you could argue they've been systematically broken down where they rely on China much more than anyone else at this point. But this is another interesting piece of this, which is they are competing under Chinese Taipei. That's literally their Olympic name.
Has it always? I mean, I've always heard of Chinese Taipei. Has that always been part of Taiwan? I don't even know.
So that's what Taiwan was referred to at a different time, right before their sovereignty, right? So it's just one of these things that kind of speaks to the insanity of what's going on right now, which is that they won't even let a country who is a sovereign nation at this point come in and compete, because it breaks the narrative of how strong the CCP is. And they are making a sledgehammer out of this, and saying we're going to beat the world into submission to believe that we are what we are.
Which is even more ironic, because the IOC is in many ways doing some very questionable decision making in terms of disqualifications, and it's helping Chinese athletes. It's really kind of it's almost cheating at this point. But but going back to the original point, I'm going to take a different side than you guys. I think we should be competing. But I'm torn, because the only way we should not be competing, in my mind, is if it was a massive protest by the EU, by other countries. It would have to have been organized. And somebody just asked, did any country boycott the Olympics, Gina? It couldn't have just been the United States. These athletes have worked too hard. This is their short window with COVID. There's already mass chaos in the Summer Olympics. Being a year pushed back, these athletes have, unless you are the Shaun Whites of the world, unless you are what's her face, Michaela Schifrin that just kind of shit the bed, unfortunately, and got too much coverage on her shitting the bed. Unless you are these athletes that are going to be in multiple Olympics, you have one chance at this. And I do believe we should compete. The only way that you shouldn't is if every major nation that is with us in terms of what we know what's going on in China would have had to organize and pull out. And essentially, it would have made world championships. It would have made international games that they have that are separate, the Olympics. But if for us to be the only one to pull out, it's very unfair for the athlete in the United States. And that's where the government is making a decision that doesn't think of the common man. The common man in this case is the Olympic athlete. So that's why I don't think we should boycott the Olympics. With that said, not sending a government official to keep checking in and realize that there's athletes, not just Americans, that are being mistreated. And there's we've heard figure skaters being pulled in the middle of the night to get, you got COVID. Oh, no, you don't. You get to compete in the morning. Nope. Your COVID test was bad. Nope. Like, there was one athlete that I think actually was a Chinese athlete. It wasn't even American, that said that he was living in massive depression for 2 months leading up to the games because he did not want to catch the vid. He was doing everything he could, and then he tested positive and then did not get to compete in figure skating. It's just such a nightmare out there, and but at the same time, boycotting I think would have been the wrong decision. So, Suni, what do you think? Say it again. Who said that? Casey?
I was gonna just say I slightly disagree with you. Like, we're looked at as one of the leaders in the world. Why
then organize the protest? Then organize the protest properly. By doing it solely by ourselves, maybe people would have followed, but it's too late. The athletes are already being sent. It would have had to have been something organized 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Sure. That was a worldwide protest in my not a worldwide, but a major nationwide protest.
I don't disagree with that, but our government is not one that can be trusted to be able to do anything like that.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't have listened to Joey Basements. Yeah,
you need to have others step up into that role and be like, no, absolutely not. I'm not sending my team. And
Biden should have done Biden should have done he never would have, but of course not with China. He's too busy giving hand jobs underneath the table, and Hunter is, giving Parmesan cheese blowies. But Suni, do you think we should have boycotted the games, or do you think we should be competing? Right now it's 2-1.
Wait, boycotting against what exactly?
Against what they do to the Uyghurs, what their mass the genocide that happens in that country regularly, currently, for the last 4 years specifically, the way that they control their people, the fact that they are so far from Western civilization at this point, the fact they're communist run, the fact that we've seen it, they pull reporters off of the air from other countries. They're a country that does not allow any kind of free speech, and they kill people. They commit genocide in 2022.
I don't think we should be boycotting for that. No, that has nothing to do with Americans, as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's China. Why do I give a shit about what's going on in China? I don't know. There are more issues here than what China's got going on, and a protest wouldn't stop China from doing what they do. It might call a little attention to it, but they're going to do what they want to do regardless. So that's a waste of time, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, Casey, or whoever had that clip, somebody just mentioned the Pelosi's comment. Go ahead and play that Pelosi audio that we have. No audio.
Speak out.
There we go.
I would say to our athletes, you're there to compete. Do not risk incurring the anger of the Chinese government, because they are ruthless.
This comes as
This is why I say we should be not showing up to the Olympics. Even our government, dumbass Pelosi is even saying, don't be stupid in China, and we shouldn't be engaging in anything positive to promote anything positive for China.
I know that we have free speech in the United States as Americans. Well, kind of. Some of you do. But anyways, when you get to China, do me a favor and forget about that free speech for the safety of yourselves. Compete and then head home as quick as you can. Good talk.
Yeah.
So my other big issue, and then I want to get to the girl that quote unquote defected, or what. We don't even know if she's got a green card, defected. We know she's got a modeling contract, and all she cares about is money. What's her last name? Wu? Did we say? What is it? Wu? Fu? Chu? Who?
I don't know her name. I saw the story and I thought it was funny.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. And so this to me is an interesting one. This is the way NBC News, our own American news coverage, that is, I mean, this to me, and Suni, you and I agree. I think we should be competing, kind of two different reasons, but this to me is where, when we competed in the Nazi games, essentially, it was. Let's be clear, we're competing against the enemy. We are competing in the enemy's land, and we want to show the power that America has on an athletic level. And let's do this. And there was calls to boycott those games too, but it also led to some heroic moments, Joe Louis being one of them. No, Joe Louis was actually just a fight with Max Schmeling, not during the games, I don't think. I'm thinking of Jesse Owens, I believe. Jesse Owens during that Olympics. It led to some amazing moments, and it showed that America could beat on a athletic level these, the pure white race, and show them that we are better, essentially. And but anyways, but the thing is, it was us against them. This is our media to show why we get the information we do. This is NBC talking about the games.
It's worth remembering that while Western countries may be boycotting these Olympics over human rights issues, China styles itself as a champion of the developing world, and it has plenty of support in countries from Africa to Latin America, where its investments are building up local economies.
Oh, they're not genocidal. They're genocidal stylists.
My God.
They style themselves. Well, yeah, I guess if you consider saddling developing countries with absolutely unpayable debt to hopefully eventually turn them into indentured servants.
So what people may not know, what China did during the beginning of the of COVID is since they have so much money from the way their tariffs work and the fact that they have sent money all over the world, they ended up essentially knowing what was happening with COVID, giving loans to small nations across the world that they will never be able to repay. And the default on that is that they are then owned by China. So yes, they are doing development in small countries. They're also essentially buying all their mineral rights. They're buying land all over the United States of America. And NBC is calling this championing human rights. What do they call it? Championing what? How did he say it?
It's worth remembering that while Western countries may be boycotting these Olympics over human rights issues, China styles itself as a champion of the developing world.
A champion of the developing world. Like, you can't make this shit up. It's sick. It's like they changed their national anthem 4 years ago to literally talk about how we're going to take over the world, and people are just like, it's all good, it's fine. It's crazy. Anybody?
Does anybody remember when Cole did it? Cole from Liberty Revolt is in China right now. I think he just got married over there. Does anybody remember the video that he did, kind of showing the masking that China does, just of a general sense, like of their build? Like, he walked into a school building that he's teaching at, and like sheetrock had fallen off of the wall from the ceiling and cut through the ceiling tiles. And I think one of the things that's interesting about this is pure propaganda, right? Like, it's painting shit as gold, like, and that's what I think China is trying to do here in human rights abuses, in their world domination efforts.
Well, it helps that your advertising is the American media. Like,
when
NBC is painting them as they're literally poo-pooing the Western world's issues with genocide and going, some people are boycotting because of issues with killing a bunch of people, but that's not how we see it, and that's not how China sees it. Look at these lovely people that are going across, and they have beautiful music playing. Pay no attention to, oh no, there's nobody getting killed. One of the people, and I think I said this on Truth Will Set You Free the other night, so they had a torchbearer that was a Uyghur, which everybody was like, oh my God, they're coming around. They must have let him out of his cage for like 8 minutes. To light the torch. But one of the torch bearers, of part of the relay, was somebody that there is news footage of him killing a Uyghur, like stoning a Uyghur to death. Like, oh, what does that say, Eric? I can't see it.
We can't see it. You got a glare.
because he got an apple.
Okay.
That's your child.
That's my kiddo.
We'll get there. Okay, well, let me blow that up bigger.
Name a city that changed your life. Yeah, that was.
Wuhan.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of funny. Anyways, so we're not too long of a show, but the last thing, and I know Suni was talking about it earlier, and this one to me is just mind-boggling. Zuki Zuyi. She's 17 or 18. She is a skier. She did quite well. Congratulations to her. My issue is the messaging. You know what? You do what you want to do. But she grew up in, I believe, outside of Stanford, California. She trained in the United States. She then in 2019 declared that she was going to compete for China. She got a little bit of shit for it about these games. And when they asked her why, all she put on Twitter was a money bag symbol. And now she's got a modeling contract with a big name in China. And then she won gold. She did phenomenal. And her message is what got me. You do what you want to do. You pick it, whatever. Her message, though, she goes, I just want to prove to the young girls of China that you can become a gold medal athlete. If you set your mind to it, all these different things. Woman, the message would have to be, you have to move to the United States of America, defect from China, and then somehow be invited back or essentially compete for another country. Because if you think the girls in China have any chance of becoming a professional skier or Olympic skier, you are literally smoking crack from Joe Biden. 1,000,000%. Just throwing that out there. Suni, speaking of that, before we get into this girl, because I want to hear your opinion on it, we were wrong. We were wrong. Biden is not providing this bill does not provide crack pipes. That was actually an incorrect statement by the media. What it does provide is a way to clean the crack pipe.
Where'd you get that from? Where'd you get that from?
That is what Jen Psaki said in her press conference. And that is what the official word was. And they have said there is not a single. They said there's no tax dollars going to the crack pipes. They are going to the kits with the alcohol swabs, and there's no glass crack pipes. If there is crack pipes that end up in these kits, they're not taxpayer funded. That is done by the local municipality. But anything to clean it. And they said there might be rubber paraphernalia, not glass, which technically is not a crack pipe. It is a rubber.
Clearly, she doesn't know how to read, because I read the actual grant, okay? And it says smoking pipe kits. It also lists syringes. So what the fuck she's talking about is absurd. And what do you mean it came from local municipalities? That's tax-paying dollars. What are you talking about?
The syringes are for the hepatitis A and B shots. That's what was
bro.
said. Yeah. No,
yeah, because some crackheads and meth heads.
I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just saying.
I know you are. They're really going to use it to inject themselves with hepatitis B vaccines. Yep.
Yeah,
that's what they're going to do.
Right on that. Okay, so back to the Susie, no longer part of United States.
Lead glass.
What do you think? What do you think of this girl?
I'm laughing. Ha ha ha! Good for you, bro. You defected. She changed her name from Beverly because she wanted to sound more Chinese. It's not even her real name. Her real name is Beverly. I think she thought she would get love if she just shitted on America. But
she did.
they made fun of her for how poor she did. So good on them, man. Good. I think we need to bring a little bit of bullying back for people that act idiotic like this. Why? You're allowed to do whatever you want.
No, she doesn't give a shit. She won gold.
Chinese, yes, she does. She's crying. What do you mean? She's in the media crying. Like, I can't believe these people are talking about me like this. It was so bad.
Really? I haven't seen that.
Chinese social media companies deleted. I think she had over 10,000 likes on a comment that was shaming her for placing dead last.
When did she come in last on?
Let me pull it up.
She won gold. Oh, I guess there's two defectors. You're talking about the one that sucked.
That's her name. Her name is Z.
Oh, am I doing the wrong one?
Z.
Figure skater. Oh no, we're talking. Sorry, I named the wrong one. What's the girl that's the model? Sorry, we got the wrong name.
Okay.
We had bad information. Casey and Easy are fired. Who's the girl that won?
How am I fired? F that.
Who put the name in the chat? Who is it? Who do I get to fire? Easy, easy.
Yourself.
You're fired. What's the other girl's name? The model, the one that was the model.
I don't know
So
who
the
you're
one
talking
that, the
about,
one
bro.
that sucked. There's the one that won in the not the half pipe. She won like on the second day of the Olympics. So you're talking about the figure skater. I don't care
Yeah.
about the. No, there's
Well,
a
you
girl
said
that
her
won.
name.
What's that?
What does she do? What girl are you talking about?
There's a girl that won gold in skiing, and she killed it. She's she's
U.S. born ski star Elaine Gu.
Aline Goo. See, I said woo earlier. I was way closer. Goo.
I haven't heard anything about her.
She's the one that won gold. She's the one that everybody was talking about first. I didn't even know about the one that blew it in figure skating. I think the one that screwed up in figure skating is also the one that got pulled from his room. It's a guy, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
guy pulled from his room for testing.
Yeah,
and stuff like
that was him. But anyways, forget about him. He failed. Great. The one that the girl Goo, she is the one that was everybody was talking about because she won gold. She nailed it, and she's the one that got the modeling contract. She's the one that talked about the money. A year and a half ago, she's the one in 2019 that decided she was going to go for China. She's the one that was raised with all privilege in the United States of America and raised in skiing and all this different stuff. Sorry for saying the wrong name. So yeah. Anyways,
I guess
that's
there's two defectors because this
there's
girl
two, but
defected
the
too.
thing is, she didn't defect. They're actually having an issue trying to figure out. It looks more like dual citizenship, which is illegal in China. They don't allow that. So it's a little bit confusing how this happened. Essentially, should she just last minute? I don't know. But anyways, you can look her up. Goo. Yeah, thank you. People are putting Goo. I was way off. Samsonite. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this other person, but
That's the one. She won gold. She nailed it.
Zhu
She
Yi,
last.
she's good on you for getting made fun of.
Oh, the one that lost, I could care. I'm not the one that bothers me is the one that's like proudly taunt. And also they said that the media in China, who is usually slow to cover this kind of stuff, instantly got on it and was like praising her, almost like taunting America, like we took your girl. It's just dumb. I don't. And she's the one that said, if you want to, she's like, I want to be a role model to young Chinese girls. And it's like, what, a role model? Because there's no way for a young Chinese girl to have the freedom to be able to become a professional skier, period. That is absolutely impossible. Does not happen. So again, that's China making sure to utilize her to cover up the fact that it's impossible to be a free human being in that country.
So according to this article that I'm looking at right now, she refuses to actually state whether or not she's given up her citizenship or not.
Interesting. So she's been. Oh yeah, and then which also brings up the point when she won gold in the audience was the other Chinese tennis player that was missing, the one that claimed to have been raped by a Chinese official, a part of the CCP party that disappeared for a period of time, and then came back from what appears to be a re-education camp saying, "Oh no, I love China. China's the best. I misspoke. It wasn't that bad." It's fucking creepy. Creepy. And she was they put her out in the middle of the games. The Chinese woman, I'm terrible at these names, nor do I have them up in front of me. But yeah. Pei, thanks, Matt. Killing it for me. Yeah, Matt Pei was the Chinese tennis player that was at the games. Anyways, that's all I want to talk about because these games are weird. What's going on, Stevie? Anything else to say about the Olympics besides the fact that people are getting disqualified left and right? You've got COVID issues, you've got wardrobe issues, you've got somebody doing a legal move in speed skating and then being booted and being disqualified so China could win. Weird.
I have a question that's Olympic related, but not necessarily to the games going on. And I'm curious what your guys' perspective is. Because it's something that really impacts my state and Eric's state. Would you guys support the Olympics coming to your town?
Ooh.
I don't see why not.
Really? Okay.
I'm not going to let politics. I'm not going to let politics.
I'm not saying
I-
necessarily, but okay. If you want to say that because of politics, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll agree with Sunni, not on politics. I think I've followed what happens to places after the Olympics. It destroys the economy. It's a bunch of empty buildings. The economy is so boosted in that year, and then these buildings go to ruin.
Yep.
There's really cool photos that have been done, kind of this post-apocalyptic things since the 70s. Like you got Sarajevo, you've got even the games that were in Salt Lake City, the areas that were used went to ruins for a long period of time. So it's actually bad. It's not good for a city from a political standpoint. Of course, I'd be fine. I don't care. Like that's not it. I think the destruction done to a city. Now, what I wanted in Texas, I think there is certain, and I know they tried presenting it in Texas, or they tried applying. I think there are certain places that it would work in better than others, and I do think they were talking North Texas. I think that would be a place that would work, where you try to put it into an inner city, where you tried to do New York. LA is where I think it's supposed to be in 2028. I don't think it's a good idea. I think certain places are. I think DFW is one of the few places in the United States of America that would actually work.
Easy.
I have kind of, aside from the economic stuff, I have issues with the Olympic Committee as a general rule. They don't seem to have a good grasp on what's going on in the from the Olympic athletes culture. And a good example of this is we know that most of the gymnastics team was abused by a doctor for a decade or more. You've got I can't find her name, but Pang is her last name. She was a Chinese tennis player.
Yeah, Peng Shui.
Yeah, that accused and then disappeared and then came back and had a new story. So I think it's the Olympic Committee has some answering to do as far as human rights abuses, just as a general whole. And until those are settled, I don't see the value necessarily in the Olympic Games the way that they pitch it on a political scale. So
then your issue is actually the politics behind it. You wouldn't want it because of the politics.
Here in Salt Lake, I think one of the things that we've seen is we saw a huge economic downturn for a long period of time, but they've repurposed a lot of those areas, particularly up in the ski resort areas, into facilities that are now world renowned, where everybody comes to train, where everybody comes to do things. And so I don't see it as a short-term economic solution as much as it can be a short-term boost that's going to have a big downwave, and eventually, if they can maintain the facilities, is something that could be of economic value over the long haul. But
and I do think winter and summer is a little bit different. I do think winter has a little bit more, especially if you're in the mountains like Salt Lake. I mean, Salt Lake still had some. I when I go to Salt Lake, I'm always like, how did they have the Olympics in this small town? I do not understand. Like it's like
it wasn't in Salt Lake.
It's in Park City. Yeah,
it was mostly in Park City. But yeah,
actually, sorry, even worse. Park City is even freaking smaller. That's what I meant when I go skiing in Park City. Sorry, it's even smaller. And Salt Lake City got the overflow, so everybody's driving 45 minutes to an hour. It seemed weird.
So let me explain why I asked the question. So Rio, we all know the Olympics and the Summer Olympics in Rio, right? When that went on, they spent $13.2 billion in renovations and stuff on their city to be able to have the Olympics. They now have a major soccer stadium that's probably worth to an average soccer team, and I should say football team, that's probably worth around $800 million to $1 billion, and it's completely abandoned now. After that, it's completely just not being utilized, and we are talking about a major area to where football or soccer is a major sport in that area, and it's not being utilized. You also have major pools. You have a whole bunch of other infrastructure that is built that is not being utilized. Salt Lake City has a luxury because we are known for having winter Olympics or winter sports in general. So all of those things become training facilities and stuff like that where they can get used multiple times and you can reuse them. Now, there was the whole fiasco with Mitt Romney and some money and where it went and stuff like that with the 2002 Olympics. But overall, my thing is I'm starting to think that the Olympics is being utilized to embezzle and move money around in between people's pockets. It's not actually being utilized for real competition between countries like it should be. It's actually being utilized to move money between big wealthy people.
Look at what happened with the World Cup, and I'll just put a stamp on that and say football or soccer, depending on where you're at. They found that same issue. It was a huge money mover, and that's kind of speaks to the issue of what the Olympic Committee is doing right now. Nobody can account for a lot of the dollars that are being spent, how they're being spent, and where they're being moved to. And the World Cup, the World Olympic soccer committees and stuff, I'll point to them as an example.
Yeah.
So just noticing the one thing I didn't talk about was the doping issues with the Russian athletes already. And it looks like their female team, just one of the quad jumpers, the first females ever, they just had a female skater that landed a quad jump, which is unheard of. It sounds like she was the one that tested positive for some kind of banned substance. So that's also happening. So, and Russia, another country that the IOC is like, yeah, Putin's fine. We'll just go ahead and put it there. But again, these are Winter Olympics, so it is different. Yeah, like, and I'm kind of with Casey. It's hard to think that it's a good idea to put it in a state when it turns into garbage. It does. It's tough. After LA Olympics, I cannot wait to see how many it's going to lead to even more homeless issues out there. And it's going to be, I can't imagine it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in 2028. If our country hasn't turned around by then, that is going to be a complete shit show. So
I agree.
Anyways,
actually, I was watching a documentary about the Olympics and what states where, like, it was talking about should Olympics be in just static locations? They shouldn't move around. And LA is one of them that they say Summer Olympics should always be there because they have the infrastructure, they have the major stadiums, they can support that many people coming into their city, and they can actually do it properly. And it made sense, but I still don't justify for how much money the city puts into it and to try to build up everything and make everything look super fancy when the city doesn't really get much benefit out of it other than expose their city to other travelers. That's all it does.
True story. All right, guys, that was it. I know we've been wanting to talk about the Olympics. Suni, you got any final words? We'll go around the little round table one time.
Nope. I don't have any.
Hashtag Team USA. Casey, easy. Got anything?
No, just pay attention. Look at where the money's gone. Look at the charade that they put on in order to make it look fancy and interesting. They got genocide happening. Pay attention to that.
Yeah, and she's part of the Russian Olympic team. So if that happens, the Team USA will actually win that gold medal because they won silver. They have not received their gold medals yet because they might take that in the team competition because of a 15-year-old taking substance. Anyways, yeah, that's all we got, guys. I think we were kind of split 2-2 on whether or not the Olympics should still be, that we should still be competing in them. Some interesting things. I just want to remind you one last time what our media thinks of China.
And it has plenty of... Yeah, it's worth remembering that while Western countries may be boycotting these Olympics over human rights issues, China styles itself as a champion of the developing world. And it has plenty of support in countries from Africa to Latin America, where its investments are building up local economies.
Yeah, just want to say that. So the biggest issue I have is that our American media is completely okay with what's going on in China. Cool. All right, guys, take it easy. Have a great night, and I'm sure we'll catch you more tomorrow. Casey, I'm sure I'll be following what happens with the, the convoy, which maybe that's why we lost 72 followers today. And then Suni, I know you were talking about some of the stuff with follow your stuff, talking about the issues with not Department of Defense, but the Homeland Security essentially deeming anybody who wants to infringe on First Amendment or speak their First Amendment is now considered a terrorist. Awesome. And only, I believe, Marjorie Taylor Greene and no, Greene's the only one I've even heard say anything about this, I think, to this point. So it's time for some politicians to step up, especially on the conservative side, the Republican side, to say, oh, this is super weird. We're now turning anybody that disagrees with the leftist government into a terrorist. Cool. With that said, everybody, have a great night. Godspeed. God bless. And take it easy.